You can lean over.
We're on. It's 11/11 Tuesday, whatever the date is. Episode number 30.
It is 30.
It's 30.
My
30, yeah.
age.
Yeah.
My age, yeah. You look better for it than me, though. And you're going to introduce today?
Tina, we have a very special guest. To be fair, very last minute, but I'm so happy that you managed to connect with us, to come here, be with us today, and share your gifts. And I'm telling you, I'm already super excited, but you're gonna find out very soon what Tina is about and what she's got to share with us. And it's super amazing. I must say that.
Very briefly, Tina, could you just share what you do?
Yeah. Well, I work with people with mental health, cancer, lots of different illnesses, but also I work with young people, try and empower them with sport, skiing, running, biking, all those sort of things in the realm of the spiritual, which I know is a bit of a controversial word, but in my world, it's like magic, basically. And I use a lot of plant medicine. I work with Indigenous elders, and I work a lot with elders in India, actually just outside Mumbai.
Brilliant. So you're originally from Cheltenham, but you live in Canada now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Originally from Cheltenham.
Yeah.
I was born here, and we used to have Chapel Rock Gym, which had a climbing wall.
Yeah.
And I just love being with people who are pushing themselves to do something magnificent in life, however small that might be.
Yeah, cool. But you're on the right podcast because we get to talk about whatever we want on here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
you
love
can go
that.
way out there with anything. Oh my
there.
God, we've had tarot cards, all sorts on it. We're just going to do a card thing over here. If you've got any questions for Tina, obviously drop them in. And as always, we like some love today, wouldn't we?
Yeah, always.
Some love this way. My good friend, I got a shout out, Amanda, so she put me in contact with you, and we did an interview before, and it was so beautiful when we did it because it was all the snow was falling down behind you. And I said to Angela, when I seen you in town, Mandy did say, but I forgot. I'm sorry. I was like, we got to get her on. So thanks for coming in short notice. So you do quite a lot of different. I think we're interested. People that are watching probably more interested in that spiritual aspect, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I think the spiritual aspect is what people are coming into now after COVID.
Yeah.
Because there's the Indigenous people talk about the physical, the mental, the spiritual, the emotional, but actually all those four things are combined together in people's health and wellness. And the problem is a lot of people all over the world are getting all their support systems taken away during COVID and after. And nothing's replacing it.
Yeah.
And so people are just getting, sicker. And a lot of people don't really realize it until it actually creeps up on them and they have a breakdown, or they just notice that they're not happy anymore and they're just not in the right frame of mind. And of course, it's easy to say to people, pull yourself together, which is what you hear most people say. But it's not about that. Depression and anxiety are very real, and they disable people actually in their everyday life. They're unable to work. They're unable to have a good relationship with their families. And I think most of us have been through some form of this.
Yeah.
And it's only when something really massive happens that you suddenly wake up and realize, I need to do something for myself.
Yeah.
And maybe not totally rely on others, because as I've found out in both Canada and England, you're on waiting lists for a very long time. And in the meantime, you could be doing something for yourself.
Wow, so powerful. I think, you're absolutely right, isn't it? The lockdown, I noticed it. I think that's when I spoke to you, isn't it? Anyway,
yes.
But I just noticed when I was teaching, you could see people's bodies, but even though they were doing something physical, you'd see it at the beginning. By the end, they'd done some movement, so they felt very. You could see the change, but almost overnight, I guess, because most people are coming on every day, and so the next morning you see like the down, and by the time they'd done some movement, it shifted. But I think it was that isolation, I guess.
Human beings actually do like to be with each other.
Yeah,
and they like to have animals or the company of other creatures. And I think what happened was a lot of older people as well, they had no other than family members who they couldn't even see, they were completely stuck.
Yeah.
So that means that some of the young people got really sad because their parents were sad.
Yeah.
And so it creates a knock-on effect.
Yeah.
And it's just simple things that people can do that make a difference, such as giving somebody a breathing technique.
Yeah.
Something as simple as that, which sometimes you're like, oh, I better take a pill because that's something that everybody knows about. But actually, you know, some of the old traditional methods truly work.
Yeah.
But also what you want is somebody who knows what they're doing to share that with you.
Yeah.
And then you do it yourself, and then you start to notice the benefits. And it's like the martial arts, brilliant for young people, older people. I mean, obviously, what could be better than people, you know, you have a sensei, you have someone to look up to, you've got a mentor. Martial arts, fitness, all those things are incredibly good for the mind.
Yeah.
What yoga does is yoga is something that helps people understand another aspect of themselves. It is fitness. There's an element of fitness to it, but also you start to learn how to breathe.
Yeah.
And when you start to learn how to breathe and also sit with yourself in meditation, and a lot of people say to me, oh, I can't meditate. There's no way I can sit for 20 minutes. I don't blame you, neither can I. But if you give people a technique that they can do, so a lot of people don't understand that actually you can sing mantra or just your favorite songs. Like one of the songs I'll sing, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. You know, and it's incredible if you sing that and people are looking sad or not having a good time, a whole group of people start singing with you. And something as simple as that can light up someone's day. So singing's powerful, art, painting. In the traditional territories where I live in Canada, they have sweat lodge. So you go into a sort of, it's a building that's made out of willow, and they put, they actually use fabrics like blankets. They lay it all over there. They dig a hole in the center. We go and gather 100 lava rocks. And then the elder builds the fire. We wait till the rocks are all really hot. And I guess you could say it's like the sauna, except it's not, because you go in there, you drum, you chant, you sing. You're in the pitch black, so you can actually speak about things that you wouldn't normally speak about if you were in the light, perhaps with other people.
Yeah, okay.
So people feel very free to share in a circle. And of course, the thing about drumming, one of the reasons why people are so connected to drumming in particular is because the first thing we hear when we come to be is our mother's heartbeat.
Yeah.
And so they say that the drum represents the heartbeat. And if you wanted to take that further, then it represents the beat of Mother Earth. And as you were saying, you know, you use tuning forks. Some of those forks are at like 240 hertz or 360 hertz. Actually, I think Imagine, John Lennon's song was something like 425 hertz. The reason we like it is not even necessarily the words, it's the sound.
Yeah.
The sound vibrates in our body and in our cells, and it makes us feel better.
Wow.
It's so interesting.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And everything's about vibration.
Everything's
Yeah,
about vibration, because we're made up of, you know, 75% water.
Yeah.
And so, you know, if you imagine like when you're really angry, you know how that feels.
Yeah.
And then when you're really happy, you know how that feels. And that's why Emoto, when he wrote that book, Messages in Water, he said like chanting over water before you drink it or singing over your food when you're cooking it, it makes the food taste wonderful. And what I've noticed, you can go to a super expensive restaurant and you know how people are like a bit cross out there and they're shouting at each other and it's very intimidating in the kitchen. The food might be very expensive, but it doesn't taste that good. But you go to like a lay-by and there's an old guy in there cooking food, breakfast, and singing, and he's having a fun time. You eat the food and it's gorgeous. And the reason is because of the person. They're putting the energy into the food.
I also know for a fact that when you cook while you're happy, regardless what it is, you know, we had this little discussion about meat eaters and the vegetarians, but that's not something what I want to mention here. When you put your heart into the food that you cook, you prepare, you raise the vibration of the food. So regardless what you eat, your body will deal with it much better.
Yes.
Because the vibration is different.
Totally.
So you're going to get the best out of it to benefit your body, and what needs to go will go, you know.
Totally.
Yeah.
That's why processed foods for older people, they always eat processed foods.
Yeah.
But they're not good for them. You know, if you've got elderly parents, the best thing you can do is cook for them.
Yeah.
Even if you haven't got any time, make the time, because it helps their aging process, and it's such a lovely thing to give something back.
Yeah.
That's what I think. And you know, like we were saying earlier, though I'm vegan, obviously there's some super angry vegans out there and are not very kind to people who are eating meat. And it's the energy that creates a horrible atmosphere around people, around food. So we have to be careful. I know it's a cliche, but you really have to think about loving kindness and setting a spiritual precedent, because the word spirit means breath. So when people say to me, I'm not spiritual, I'm like, well, you are, because everybody's breathing and the trees are breathing. And it's just that you've maybe been given a bad vibe about what that means. And it's a shame, because it makes people feel uncomfortable, and I don't want them to feel like that.
Yeah. I think you're right. That whole spiritual thing, it's almost like, oh.
Yeah, it does make people feel uncomfortable, because they think they have to behave in a special way.
Yeah.
Just be yourself.
Yeah.
Be true to yourself. And you know, I think most people don't want to be unkind to others.
No, I agree.
And I think coming out of COVID, we're all realizing how precious life is, and how much it was such a shock to the whole planet.
Yeah.
That now we've got an opportunity to make changes now, especially for young people.
Do you feel, I'm going to maybe go off a bit. Well, not. So I feel that people want to be kind, and then you got all the stuff going on in Ukraine.
Yeah.
Do you feel that's like a bit of balance? Is that to bring more back? Do you know what I mean?
I know. Yeah, I mean, it's so sad, isn't it? All these different countries that have lost massive loss of lives. You know, the Ukrainian people with their, you know, I saw a picture of a young boy in his skateboarding pads with a gun, and he didn't even know how to use it.
Yeah.
And, you know, it makes you think about, in our history, there's been so many wars that are all unnecessary.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I think even the people, I always think of that night when the Germans, the British and the French, they had a truce, and they all had drinks. I think it was Christmas Eve.
Yeah, in the First World War, right?
That was in the First World War. And I remember my granddad telling me about that. And I thought, what a moment that must have been.
Yeah.
And how terrible it would have been when they all went back and then they had to kill each other.
Yeah.
And I wish that the human race would learn by these terrible happenings and just think, right, this is time now to stop this.
Yeah.
And to realize that stuff is not important, because it's always about oil or about what some other people have got. It's always based around money. And if we could only look at, I mean, Ukraine is a beautiful country, and so is Russia, really. And, you know, I mean, I have a wonderful Russian boxer, Sasha, who's a lovely man, and he said, we don't even want this war.
Yeah.
So there's so many Russian people that don't want it either. 100%. And I just and you know, when you look around the world, I just wish that people could treasure every moment and not try and kill each other. It's such a sad thing, and it breaks my heart to see it. And all the animals, you know, the animals that are left suffering as well, because PETA are in there at the moment, and they're rescuing all the dogs, because of course most of the people couldn't take their beloved pets with them. So, you know, there's always this knock-on effect of suffering. All of this creates mental health worldwide that is going to really destroy young people. Actually, that's what will happen, is it creates a no hope type of situation. So a lot of those young people that were looking forward to maybe buying their first home, getting married, you know, they don't know what's going on now.
No, actually, you're saying about, I think about my children, they were affected, obviously, like everyone, from the whole COVID, and even with what's going on there, I can almost sense it.
You can sense it.
You've just got to talk to them about it, and that's it.
Yes.
So,
and try and be, I definitely think that, you know, not not acknowledging these things is not good. So you don't bury your head in the sand.
Yeah.
But what you also do is try to be as positive as you can with what you've got, the tools that you have, and trying to appreciate every moment. And I think one of the things I love about the elders is they don't have a lot in the way of belongings, but what they do have is a wonderful tradition with Mother Earth.
Yeah.
So they really look after like the bears and the coyotes and so when you are out in nature, that's probably the best thing people can do at the moment for their mental health is try and go on the Campton Hill or try and find somewhere where you can go for a walk, breathe. And even if it's only for an hour and you go back to reading your paper or watching the news, at least you've had a break from the, you know, the inevitable, the continuation of suffering, which is what everybody's being, you know, it's all around us at the moment. And so, and also the massive loss of life from COVID and people who are dying of cancer. And so there's so many things that we have to try and put it all into one space and think, right, we're going to think about all of this. And now we're going to think about the solutions.
Yeah.
And those solutions are people like you that have created this wonderful center here. You know, yoga studios that might not be in a yoga studio where the average person wouldn't go. Maybe you are in a church or you're in a town hall or you're in a, you know, some building that doesn't even represent somewhere that might be frightening for people to go. And you have tea and coffee and people come in and they just do a gentle yoga class. Or they maybe do a drumming circle or they maybe sing. Chanting's incredible for health. And then sharing with people about some of the plant medicine, which is even here in England. I mean, in Canada, we have so much plant medicine. We have two particular mushrooms that we use within the yoga practices, and also Ayurvedic medicine is turkey tail and lion's mane. So lion's mane is for the neurological system and turkey tail's for the immune system. And they grow in my back garden. So, you know, obviously I appreciate some people don't have access to that, but if you've got time and you can start to, you know, look at what's around you, it's incredible. The medicines, like even dandelions, like dandelion tea, not in a massive amount, but that can actually help the urinary tract. Like simple things that people might throw away, you can use. And so we need to be a lot less of a throwaway culture and much more of a, you know, observing everything, trying not to throw stuff away, because that doesn't make us feel good either. Like I'm always recycling clothes. Actually, everything I have on is recycled. And I have a friend who just, that's what she does. She gets clothes and changes it. And it's awesome. Costs not very much. You help people who are recycling things. So I always think it's like a layered system. And that layered system starts to make people feel better about themselves. And certainly yoga, not to think of it as some weird thing that only a chosen few people can do. To me, yoga should be for everyone. You should be able to do chair yoga. You should be able to do yoga if you're in bed and you can't move. I have some people in wheelchairs. Anybody should be able to do this. Anyone should be able to come into that studio. If they haven't got any money, they can still come in. There shouldn't be this, you know, just this chosen few people.
No, I agree. I agree. I know when Nina was running yoga here, there used to be a lady came in. I think she had quite a nasty car crash, so she couldn't really do a lot. But she was getting enough, just like I said, like you said, the breathing. I guess.
Yes.
Led there. Really.
Totally.
She could walk, but it was difficult.
Yes.
Thing. So I think that's such a great mindset to have, isn't it?
And sound, like when you chant Om. Again, a lot of people almost think it's associated with a religion. The thing is, Om is universal. Obviously, Hindu people do use it a lot because that sound is very, you know, they're very passionate about the sound. But the word Om actually is a very special word unto itself because it's speaking about consciousness. And I think that that's where we definitely need to raise our consciousness, because a lot of us are just waking up now and we're beginning to realize things have to change. And so I think chanting a sound with a group of people can be very uplifting. So, you know, you can create the sound. So what we do when we chant Om, we break it down to So what I'll do with a group that haven't done it before, I get them to take an inhale, and they'll do that inhale. And then they breathe in again. And then they breathe in again. And see the sounds. Actually, you're doing an asana practice with your mouth. You're also training your lungs. But when you put it all together, you get this beautiful what I do with my kids is I'll kind of go, like that, and I'll do something and make them jump out of their skin. And they just love it, because then they go around the room, and it's not something where they're all sat there kind of like this rigid. You want people to be able to associate with sound on so many different levels, and also with a sense of humor. And that doesn't mean that you have disrespect for a very old tradition, but you can actually, my kids love that. They love it. Whereas if I sat there just going, they probably would all walk out. And obviously there's different groups you can do different things with. But that sound on its own, if you chant that in the morning, at night, 3 times, it's incredible how much you start to go, oh God, I'm out of breath, or oh good, my lungs are better today. And bearing in mind COVID attacked the lungs, we should be doing more stuff for the lungs. And there's a breathing technique that anyone can do that I share with my people, no matter what's going on with them. And if you put your right hand on your heart, your left hand on your abdomen, and if you breathe in through your nose, but don't sniff, so it's kind of like a... And as you do that, let your belly just balloon outwards a bit. And then what you do is, you know, when you get a dandelion and it's got all those heads, the seeds on it, I want you to imagine that you're blowing the seeds off a dandelion head. And so you breathe out. And that can go on for quite a long time. If you do that for 3 minutes every day, it helps panic attacks, it helps anxiety, it helps people like my dad, who sometimes he can't get his breath. And I notice that he does it naturally. Sometimes he's doing it without me even having told him. So it's a beautiful breathing technique. It's called diaphragmatic breathing. And anyone can do it. And you can do it anywhere. You can do it sat on the bus or anywhere. So I like to give people things that they could do anywhere, easy.
That's really good.
If you know, it's like people with stress, post-traumatic stress. The last thing you want to do is write them up a massive program and then say, right, we're going to do an hour today. And they look at you like, what? And it's just like a 10-minute something that they can do and remember. Otherwise, you make those people more stressed out.
So that's what I do when I work with my clients. I don't give them plans out. It's like, I always gauge, I ask them on a scale from 1 to 10, how confident you are you can do it. And if they tell me 9 or 10, we consider doing that. But if it's below 9, we break it down in smaller steps. So it's easy. It's like it has to be almost like second nature. So they feel like they're progressing. It doesn't matter how fast.
Yes.
But it's something that helps them rather than add stress to whatever they are doing.
Totally.
So,
yeah, you don't want to stress people out. And that's why in yoga, doing one class for everyone is not good. Yoga was meant to be taught to, well, actually my teacher, who's really famous, Sri K. Patabi Joyce, before he died, and Iyengar, they only had 4 students. And they used to really look after those students. They each had their own practice. And so to give 50 people, which is what I used to teach in Canada, the same class is a kind of a bit weird. Because it means that some people who've got knee injuries, or you can't isolate what's going on, or also, of course, mental health is the unseen thing. So a lot of people feel awful because they say, well, no one even knows I'm suffering because I haven't got a stick or I haven't got a bad back. So those group of people, it's hard for them because they're also living with that you know, that mental health that some people don't even realize they have.
But many of them also hide behind a smile.
They do.
How can you tell they are suffering?
It's very difficult. It's a stiff upper lip, isn't it? And I think a lot of famous celebrities spend most of their life doing that. it's where we have to learn to be true to ourselves. And in the first round of a sweat lodge, it's number one.
Yeah.
In the second round, it's family. In the third round, it's community. And in the fourth round, it's gratitude. And I remember my friend said, well, why aren't family first? And the elders said, well, if you're not here, you won't even be with your family.
Yeah.
So you've got to look after yourself first.
Yeah. That's
Put your own house in order, and then you can serve other people.
Yeah. I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Makes absolute sense. Were you a psychiatric nurse?
No. So what I did was I did psychology when I was younger. I actually did sports psychology.
I remember now.
So I used to do the gladiators and all those ridiculous things when I was younger, which I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
And I ran 8 marathons and did Tough Guy, which was like 13 miles round an assault course. I actually came third in one of those, which I can't even believe, because now I doubt I'd even be able to walk to the line. But also I work on ski patrol for 8 years as a medic. And so I kind of got both. I've got a few facets that I work with, so it's not just...
Yeah, I knew there was something. Yeah, that's why I asked.
Yeah, really. Because I think with yoga, there's a lot of people try to give counseling when they're not really properly trained, and it's not good.
No, it isn't.
And we're not supposed to be speaking to our older populations as if we know.
Yeah.
Like, you know, when I hear people say I'm a life coach and they're 20, I'm kind of like, you've got a bit of a life to live yet. You know, I'm not taking that away from you.
No,
I'm sure your education is massive, but you know, really life experiences. That's why my elders in my groups, I always really honor them.
Yeah.
Because they're incredible people.
Yeah.
I mean, I had this one guy who just showed up for a yoga class, and his whole life, he was a brain surgeon.
Wow.
And there he was doing his cat cow and doing his child pose. So you never know who's in your class.
Yeah.
You never know who's walking in. There's some very talented individuals in there. And so I don't like to make diagnoses. And actually, I work with a brilliant psychiatrist on Vancouver Island. And when I have people who are really, you know, when it's got to that next level, I always call her in. And we have like a layer system that we work with. I never profess to know it all, because you simply don't.
No.
You know, you need.
But age 20, we knew it all, right?
We knew it all. Yeah, we were going around. I know that.
I know that.
I can do that. I can help you. And I hate that word help.
Yeah.
It's almost like serving is way better.
Yeah.
I like
serving
that.
is better.
It is.
Yeah. I think I've fallen in that trap.
I think we all
Oh,
have.
I think we all.
I suppose,
And when I used to do the martial arts with some of the guys from Chapel Rock, you know, I remember going over there and I thought I was the bee's knees. I thought, look at me, I'm super fit. I've got a 6-pack and this is life. And then, you know, I went to India and I was like, oh, there's a little bit more. And India is an incredible place, because that's changing, because even the mental health over there is changing, because 30% of people used to become monks of choice.
Yeah.
But now there isn't that's not happening. So actually 30% of people are going through incredible mental health issues, because a lot of them are homeless.
Yeah.
And they don't know where to go.
Yeah.
And actually COVID hit India in the worst possible way. I mean, it annihilated so many people.
Yeah.
And so when I go back there, I'm very aware that I don't want to proselytize a tradition that the people there really revere. So I nearly always try and raise a little bit of money for the people I go to, which is the eco village, Radhanaswamy. But they have a dog sanctuary there. And so I love animals. So I always try to do, you know, 5% and give them some money, because that's a lot to them.
Yeah.
And for me, it makes me feel like I'm giving something back to a tradition that's pretty much saved my life.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had a really bad car accident years ago and spent a month in hospital. And if it hadn't have been for the breathing, I don't think I would have survived.
Yeah.
I really wouldn't, you know, that breathing technique on its own. And back in the day, people thought you were a nutter, actually. They'd look at you and go, what are you doing? And you'd be doing like alternate nostril breathing, or, you know, some of the breathing techniques. There's one we do, Kapalabhati, where we do this. And this breathing energizes people. And, you know, again, you have to learn it properly, but I find it more beneficial than the asana practice, actually.
Yeah.
Sometimes the asana practice is wonderful, but it's not always about that. And the most important thing is chanting. So we have mantras that we chant. And some of them, we chant them like this one, Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha, Sarve Santu Niramaya, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet. So in that Sanskrit, which is what they call the language of the gods, it's actually a dead language in India, but it's being revived. But what it means is, may all beings be free from disabilities. May all beings be free from pain. May all beings see and experience what is good and beautiful, and may no one be unhappy. Well, I'm happy to chant that till the day I die, because that's how I want to spend my day.
Yeah.
And so when you repeat something and you sing it a couple of times, you're like, right, I'm going to put my foot out. I'm going to get up. No matter what happens, I'm going to have a good day. And I want to share that with people because it's worked for me. So you tend to share things with people that you know work, and you think, well, I want to share this with as many people as I can.
Yeah,
and you know, it's always okay to acknowledge that some people don't want to do it, and that's fine.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
You know, maybe there's something that they would prefer to do, and maybe they might find it via chanting or via drumming or something like that.
Yeah.
Oh, this is so inspiring. I find that sometimes even people are not ready to take something on.
Yes.
If we can't discard the power of planting a seed.
Yes.
Because they might not be ready at this
100%.
moment, but they will be ready, more open to it, you know, maybe a little bit later.
Totally.
And as we're talking about breathing, last week we had a great guest, and he was talking about autism.
Yes.
And how he helped himself to calm his mind down. And he was talking about meditation and breathing techniques from Wim Hof.
Yeah.
So there is so many different sources, ways that we can utilize, help ourselves.
Totally.
And there is no really right or wrong what we choose, as long as we get the results we are aiming for.
Totally.
And now I think part of me believes that the whole situation which we are experiencing, including COVID itself and the war in Ukraine, it's just like highlighting to us what we prefer more.
Yes.
And even though the situation is really bad, I know for a fact it's a temporary.
Yeah.
And like you mentioned earlier, there's so many people who are going out there and they're saying this is not what we want, and you can see it across the whole globe, including Russia itself. Which is amazing.
It is.
Which is amazing. And those people are actually showing us which direction we are going, even though we have so much of, you know,
totally
negativity going on there. It's just a temporary thing, but the positive energy and the awareness, it's raising, and it's nice to see that. And I personally prefer to focus on that.
Yeah.
Because it makes me feel better.
Yes.
That we are going in the right direction.
And you're not the only one. I mean, this is what has to happen really in the future. And I mean, yoga is so old. It's like over 5,000 years old. And obviously the meditation, we use it for ADHD. We use it for post-traumatic stress. I mean, I was told I was dyslexic when I was 9. And I was told to go out of the maths class and go make baskets. Now, the funny thing is, now I do all my own tax. I taught myself. And the reason I do that is because I learned how to meditate. And meditation is, I mean, one of the best things is an affirmation, something as simple as, I am loving awareness. I am loving awareness. If you sit there for 5 minutes just reciting that, you actually become what you recite. It's like a vision. When you vision yourself, I'm going to buy that house in 5 years' time. I know some people say, I'm not though, Tina. And I said, yeah, but that you don't want that in your mind. You want to think to yourself, I'm going to create this. I'm going to be an entrepreneur and I'm going to do this. And I think you can't have any doubt.
I agree with that.
No doubt.
Yeah.
If you've got any doubt at all, it's like when you're ill.
Yeah.
If you say to yourself, oh, I better, you know, I'll have the chemotherapy because otherwise I'm going to die. You know, my friend said he was going to have it, and he said, I think it's going to help me live. And it actually did. So I said, whatever medicine you take, you've got to believe in it.
Yes.
I chose mushrooms, and I chose to believe in that.
Yeah.
And that helped me, but it's not for everyone.
Yeah.
So I think whatever people choose, it's up to people like us to inspire them to continue. So if they've chosen chemotherapy, support those people with everything you've got.
100%.
If they've chosen mushrooms or they've chosen something else, support them with everything you've got. And that's what I love about Indigenous people. They're incredible people. They don't isolate people and say, oh, they shouldn't be doing that, which is it's so negative. It's such a negative way. Or even with young people, when they say, I want to be a pop star, and you're like, well, you can't sing. I mean, I've heard people say that. And yet my mum, who worked with a lot of kids that had severe disabilities, she believed in them. She took them she took them to France, she took them everywhere, and believed that they could do anything. And a lot of them have done incredible things. Yeah. So you've got to believe. I think if I could choose 3 words, I would choose believing, faith, and hope. I think Jane Goodall summed it up when she said, it's better to light a candle and find each other in the darkness than curse the darkness.
Yeah. Oh, so nice. You gave some advice earlier. What was that with the one thing you'd focus on?
Yeah, one of the things that I love remembering about, because I need to remember myself, is like you might be having 10 things in your life, and let's say 9 things is not working, but 1 is. If we focus on this one that is working, the other 9 will transform into positives. But it works both ways. If you have 9 things that are working and 1 is not working, and you focus on this one that is not working, you will screw up the rest.
Totally.
Right. So it's the power of focus.
Power of focus, yeah.
And I think conscious choice and awareness, like you mentioned earlier, it's a massive thing.
Consciousness nowadays is rising. Like, look at Greta. She's out there. I forget how many days she's into it, but I mean, that young girl is really showing the power of voice of young people. And I think, I truly believe, I want to have faith in the human race. I want to believe that we can elevate our consciousness, and that eventually the war will end in the Ukraine, and we will honor those poor people that have left their bodies. And also, as I say, some of the Russian people that are there, they don't even know what the hell's going on. And that's the problem, isn't it? When you get, my teacher used to call it misknowing. So if you get a leader who is really egotistical, in yoga, they call it a vidya and a shmita. So it's massive egoism and misknowing. If you put those 2 things together, it's deadly. And that's what you've got when you've got some of these leaderships that just, I don't know, they're just not thinking about the people. They're not thinking about the ground, the people that are on the ground that live simple lives. Our teacher in India, Radhana Swami, says, a simple living and higher thinking. That's his motto. And the man's a legend. It's brilliant. Because anytime you make something complicated, it's horrible. It just becomes a big worry. And, you know, and I know it's easier said than done. I know some people will go, well, my life isn't easy. But, you know, we can choose to change that. And we have to. Yeah. I mean, I chose to go and move my family to Canada. And everybody was saying to me, what a ridiculous thing to do. You'll be back. And I thought, you know what? I won't be back. Yeah. And now my sons have a beautiful life there. But I chose to go because I wanted to be in nature. And obviously the country's huge and it has massive open, you know, it's like the forests are incredible. But when I walked on Lecampton Hill, which was my dad's favorite place by the Devil's Chimney, it's there. It's right outside people's back doors. So you don't have to say, oh, God, I'm going to have to get on a plane and go somewhere. Just go out your back door and go and walk up the hill and it's all there. It's beautiful.
So do you remember when I mentioned to you that I have a special connection with water, with waterfalls?
Yes.
So Sanford Park, literally down the road.
Yes.
They have a little waterfall so you can hear the water.
Yes.
And you can just sit there and just listen. And I just love it. And you don't have to just go far. It's really like 2 minutes across the road.
And that's your meditation.
Oh, I love meditating.
Which I love. I mean, meditating by nature couldn't be better, could it? Yeah. But it's definitely a vibration of water. you know, the wind, when you hear the wind, and even the rain. It was raining this morning and it was just beautiful. And I think it's important. I think the other thing that happened to a lot of people as well was the vaccines. One lot of people were getting vaccine, one lot weren't, and everybody was fighting against each other. You know what? We've got to stop alienating each other. I think that's something as adults we have to try and, you know, instill in our youth, that we are not going to be those people that are trying to, you know, alienate each other, because it's so horrible. It's so negative.
It's been like that a lot. I think
been like a
if
lot.
it's not that, it's 5G, or it was
I know
politics or whatever. It was Brexit.
Actually, I have a friend who's really naughty, but he won't mind me sharing this. But he did a really good meme. And please forgive me, I'm not taking the mickey out of people here. This was just made me laugh. And he said, I just went and got my vaccine and I'm scratching underneath my arms a bit and I'm looking at the trees really lovingly. And his wife was saying, what are you talking about? And he said, I've got monkey DNA. And he said, can you just reboot me? Because he said, I feel like I need to reboot. But, you know, again, like I said, I have the deepest respect for both groups of people. But I definitely believe your consciousness, whether you had the vaccine or not, what you believe comes to fruition.
Yes.
And I really believe that. Yes. And so I personally, I mean, I used to go to India and never have any vaccines, to be honest. But I never even thought about being ill there. But then a friend of mine went and got Delhi belly and nearly died. And I'm thinking, I don't want to tell other people what to do. I only want to do what I'm doing.
Yeah, exactly.
And then, you know, you guys have to figure that out yourself.
That's it. Get information.
Yeah.
You've got a choice what you do with it.
And a bit of sense of humor goes a long way.
Yeah, definitely.
Doesn't it? I think, well, you know, we have to be able to smile a little bit. Like my dad went and had his booster. And so I took him round there this morning and the nurses loved him because he's 90. And he was like chatting them up a little bit. And we went in there and he took his coat off and they went, we can't believe you're 90. What's your secret? And do you know what he said? He said, well, I love my wife. I love my daughter and I love life. And then he got up, put his coat on, walked out. And the lady said, well, you can't argue with that.
Wow.
That's good advice. Good advice, definitely. Tina, you brought some stuff. Can you tell us?
Yeah, I just want to share with you a couple of things that I carry with me all the time. So some of you might have seen these. These are tuning forks. And I have about 40 of these now. So I use these with some of my cancer patients in bed when they can't get up. I also use them for myself when I'm on the plane. This one is the sun and the earth, and it's 136, 126 hertz. Usually I use a hockey puck, but if I use my knees, you might be able to just hear a little bit that vibration, but you can certainly hear it if you bring it up to your ear.
Yes.
And so what I do is I use it over the body and particularly over injuries. And also I use it in acupressure points. So these are German and they're really exceptional. So I use these a lot. They're not intrusive. People can be sat in a chair. They can be lying in bed. Tuning forks have been used for years. A lot of Celtic people use these actually back in the day. And I expect they were probably burnt at the stake for it, but it's because, you know, it was one of those things that people use. Yeah, she's a witch. That used to work, and they genuinely do. But they're really helpful for people with mental health issues. You can use them on the temples. And like I said, all you do is you just bang them on a surface like your knees. I just stopped it with my hat then. And then you can just put them up by your ears. And I love it when I'm taking off on the plane. It just makes me feel comfortable. And, you know, as I said earlier, not for everyone, but I really love these. And you can hear how they stop then when you touch them on a hard surface. The rattle, used by Indigenous elders, Native American people forever. Used at the birth of a baby, used at the death of an elder, used in a sweat lodge. You know, in a Sundance. The Algonquin people sing a song called the Water Song. ni be wobble and I aki misqui, ni be wobble, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, ho. Above the heart. Also can be done over water. Obviously, you're made up of 75 to 80% water. It affects the water. It's an incredible therapy. And you can make these. We actually do make them in Canada. This is moose's horn that I was given by an elder, and deer, a deer that was killed on the highway, and the RCMP gave the deer to the elders, and then they turned it into drums, etc. And then I painted daisies on this one because I love daisies. The whole thing, bring the beading, the daisy, all of it, the feather, just brings this good feeling. And it's simple. And that song is from the Algonquin Nation, who are one of the most beautiful nations, who are right next to the Mohawk, a very kind and loving group of people. And that band of people, it came from the four elders. Then they did it with the grandmother, the great grandmother, the daughter, and the baby. And it's incredible. And they usually do it over water. And then the last thing I'll share with you is a buffalo drum. So this came from a white buffalo from some elders when I was in America, that had a buffalo they'd rescued. And when the buffalo died, they gave me this and sent it to Canada, which is a very high honor. And then this was made from a piece of stick that I found in a lake up at Lillooet Lake. And then an elder gave me some sinew, and so I used it. He showed me how to make, it's a bit of a wiggly woggly one, but I love it. And so the drum has got imbued in it the power of the buffalo. I also have a vegan drum, and that's a beautiful drum as well. But I can see the elders when I play this, and they're Navajo, so that their nation is Navajo, and it was right by the Grand Canyon actually. And this drum is really old, but when you sing with a drum, you feel the energy of the animal, and you also feel the people, and you start to really have a higher state of consciousness about First Nations people, the first people of the land, and how we have to really honor and respect, and reconciliation is really important. So, we're not white people pretending to be Indigenous people. I go to the elders and learn from them, and that's how I want to spend the rest of my life. And so this is a beautiful song I'll just share with you. I'll just sit back a little bit. So you chant 2 more times, and the last time you do it without drumming. But you can't have alcohol when you're drumming. Like the night before, you're not supposed to have the it's called the Black Road. Like, these are ceremonies that should be honored. And this is a very sacred tool. That song comes from the Lillooet Nation, and it's the men sing that song. It's the chief's song. And my elder, Uncle Fraser, who passed, what an incredible man. He helped his whole community that was suffering from alcoholism, and young people from suicide. And I wanted to honor him because he taught me so much. And my other elders, Barry and Clara and Vern and Mumsy, they're incredible people. So if you ever get the chance to sit with these people, you should, because they're very, very connected to the earth, and they're they have powerful medicine. And as I say, these songs are ancient, and they're usually given to a person in a sweat lodge. Usually it comes to them and they start drumming, and then that song becomes famous. There's another one called the Women's Warrior Song, and that song actually opened the Olympics. And I'm just hoping that more people around the world, their Indigenous backgrounds, because all came from the same place. So it's time for us to really acknowledge each other. Thank you for letting me share that.
No, thank
Thank
you.
you for sharing.
Yeah, thank
beautiful.
you. Oh my gosh, that was an easy one for us today. Yeah, thank you so much, Tina.
You're so welcome.
Yeah, I'm on the edge of my seat, and I know probably there's loads more to talk about, but drop some comments in. Thank you.
Yeah, please do.
Have you got any, while you're in the UK? Have you got anything, workshops going on, or when you get back?
I have. Yeah, I've got one up in Suffolk actually on the 22nd and the 23rd and the 24th at Vida Centre, which is a beautiful centre that's all environmentally friendly. So I'll be there for 3 days.
Oh, wow.
And then I'm going back to Canada to teach over there and go and see my elders and go and be by the water and by the mountains.
Brilliant. But you do a lot online, don't you?
I do.
Yeah. So
I do a lot on Zoom. You can find me on Zoom. I have a school on Zoom actually, and I do a lot of events on Zoom.
Yeah.
And we're just trying to set up so people can get some of the not the Indigenous songs, but the Vedic prayers. We're going to try and put those up so people can learn them, because it will be very helpful for them. I really want to thank my mum and dad, because my mum was a very interesting woman when she was younger, and my dad. And I think our parents, not everybody's parents, obviously I realise some people aren't perhaps quite as fortunate, but I was fortunate in having, let me go to India, let me do crazy things, and I'm grateful to them for that.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
And Mandy, thank you, Mandy, for
Thanks, Mandy.
she's always got my back. She's a beautiful person, and I really want to thank you, Matt, for letting me come and speak on this lovely podcast.
It's Andrew's podcast as well. Sorry, Tina. And
I met you yesterday, and I really enjoyed, just chatting to you online. So thank you for sharing this. Yeah, I love it.
Thank you for letting us see your world. It was amazing to have this quick journey.
Yeah, quick journey.
But I must say that every time I hear drumming or rattling or something else, I don't hear the sound. I feel the sound. If you know what I mean. It's like a vibration. I can feel it right, and I really enjoy it.
I love that. Yeah. The Women's Warriors song they sung. That came from a woman called Martina Pierre. And she is an incredible elder. She's in her 80s now. And that song came to help the Red women, all the women that have been murdered on the Highway of Tears. And so that song became very famous. Maybe I'll finish with that one in honor of all the young women and men around the world, and two-spirited people, all beings, they, them, there, etc. All of you out there that have gone through difficult times. Whenever I hear this song, especially when it's sung by the elders, it kind of makes me stand up, and I'm like, right, I can fight another day. And, those people have been through such a lot, but they're still standing and they have an incredible amount of love. And if that is an encouragement for the rest of us, I don't know what is. And they have no malice, because, it's obviously unusual for an English white woman to be doing sweat lodge and Sundance. And I'm so grateful that they share these teachings with me. So I'll close with this. And this is also for you, because I think you might like this one.
Thank you.
So just close your eyes and remember how old the drum is. Like, we're talking about an ancient time forgotten. Hey, 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 yeah, he, oh, oh, yeah, he, oh, oh, hey, 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 yeah, he, oh, oh, hey, hey, yeah, he, oh, hey, 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 yeah, in honor of the red dress, the women that were lost but not forgotten, and the Lillooet Nation. Martina Pierre, thank you so much for the gift of that song, so I could share it with people here in my hometown. And the power of the drum, and it also the 4 times I sung represent the 4 sacred directions, the 4 medicines: sage, cedar, sweetgrass, and tobacco, and the 4 colors, which is red, yellow, white, and black. And that basically is the human race all in one go. Hope you have a beautiful day.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Well, just like that at 55.
Wow. Number of change.
And battery's about to run out. So I think we're going to definitely finish up. Thank you so much, Tina.
You're so welcome.
Yeah. Next week, special week, because it's my birthday.
Yay!
And then my birthday.
So by the end of next week, we'll be coming at you with 87 years of wisdom between us. And I'm only 35, so you've got to work it out.
I'm 60.
No way. Get out of town. We'll stay in town a little bit longer. Yeah. Yeah, age is just a number. Thank you, everyone. Peace, love, always.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Oh, I really